the Hawks making it known that they are investigating 4 dockets of treason against Afriforum and Solidarity. The organizations who asked the U.S. to intervene and to protect Afrikaner interests in South Africa. Both groups have told U.S. President Daddy Don and his administration that Afrikaners are under attack in South Africa. This was Minister of Police Senzo Mchunu in a address in the National Assembly yesterday, confirming that police, the Hawks, and the cases against the state unit is investigating. Have a listen.
Just to confirm that there are 4 case dockets that have been opened on the matter, 2 by various groups and the last 2 by individuals. And the cases are being handled by CATS. There is cases against the state, and they are being taken very seriously. The investigations are at an initial stage, and they are being investigated with collaboration of the NPA. And once they have taken a decision whether to prosecute or not, we will then inform you. Thank you very much.
Minister of Police Godfrey Ramuhala is a lecturer in strategic studies at the University of Stellenbosch. His particular specialization is researching right-wing groups in South Africa. Godfrey, really appreciate your time. Is it worth the Hawks' effort to investigate a complaint? High treason is a very, very high bar to prove. What is what is the Ministry of Police? What are the Hawks looking for in this case?
Good morning, Lester, and to your listeners. I think what is of essence, we need to sort of make peace with the reality that we live in a democracy, and therefore every individual or entity, organization, despite whatever interest maybe they might be serving, they do have a right to, lay a complaint rather, or make accusations if they feel hard done by any other person. So it is actually not surprising that this is happening. It should happen. However, what is of import is the fact that the Hawks, as the investigating entity, should rather establish the veracity of those accusations to the extent that it has been proven, or it should be proven before it even goes to the NPA. So I do believe that it is not a bar too high, although yes, you're quite right. There's some, you've got to have a lot of evidence to demonstrate that indeed treason was committed or is the crime in this instance. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they have been charged of treason. The investigation has still to unfold and determine to that effect. Yeah.
We have evidence that disinformation and misinformation have impacted on democracies and democratic electoral practices around the world. And I would say that South Africa is not immune to that. And I look at the impact that the Guptas and the period of Bal Pottinger, what impact that it has on South Africa's democracy. But is disinformation, inaccuracies, complaining to a foreign country like the US, does this fall into a category of willingly wanting to destabilize a constitutional order here in South Africa?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Look, the concept of disinformation, more especially in this current digital era, it's quite new territory, and it is cases like this that actually compel states to sort of have a relook and revise their laws to the extent that you end up not, punishing people for what could have been mundane, activities that may or may not necessarily be that harmful. But like I said, we live in a very interesting age with disinformation, malinformation, and all that. The onus rests with states to really update their laws to such an extent that we don't find ourselves in situations where we also impinge on freedom of speech at the same time. But then there's also an element of responsibility with that speech as well. So you don't really, states are actually caught between a rock and a hard place, more especially on this issue, because even states themselves are found to be, distributing disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation. And then the question becomes, okay, so who monitors the monitors? So it is actually new terrain for states, for young democracies like us, and therefore, although they harm, I need to say this, especially for South Africa now with what happened since Trump ascended at the White House again. The threats of sanctions, right? The withholding of aid, which is most likely going to impact on the poor. To an extent, one can argue that it's a moral question. That certain people or certain section of our population are going to suffer as a result of maybe the suspension of USAID or PEPFAR, among others, and that really centers on morality issues than security. But again, like I said, this is new terrain. These are uncharted waters, and we find ourselves at that the cusp where we need to redefine and refurbish our laws. Yeah.
Godfrey, there was quite recently a case in the Western Cape High Court where Western Cape High Court judge dismissed a will of a benefactor who wanted several million rand to a paramilitary right-wing
the Boer Legion.
Yes,
the Boer Legion.
And their motivation was because Afrikaners are under threat and they must prepare for some sort of armed conflict. The judge tossing that out, saying that the threat of a calculated, racially motivated attack on white South Africans is absolutely nonsense. It's a figment of imagination. But just how active in your research, in what you specialize in, are paramilitary right-wing groups who may be arming themselves, maybe dormant, but preparing for some sort of conflict?
I wish I know that. These are murky areas that I would. Unless you're really in the intelligence domain, one can with certainty declare to the extent to which such an eventuality is actually happening. But look, the fact of the matter remains that we live in a society that for ages has been divided. We live in a society that at some point others were deemed superior than others. And I've said this before, it doesn't mean therefore that now that we're a democracy and everything is hunky-dory and we're all fine with each other. It doesn't. So essentially what you end up having is that you would definitely have different interest groups that advocate for their own interests in whatever way. It can be militant, it can be anything. But like I said, everything is the state's responsibility to actually determine whether such entities exist, and if they do exist, what are the driving forces behind them.
Godfrey Ramuhala is a lecturer in strategic studies at the University of Stellenbosch. Thanks so much.